All right. One of the questions is about the modern Jews that do not accept Jesus as the Messiah. How do they get their sins forgiven, and do they still sacrifice animals?
There you go.
Hey, there we go. All right.
Mark, what an astute question of yours.
I know, right? So, anyone want to be the first to jump on that?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that at this point in redemptive history, it just doesn't matter someone's nationality. Salvation is found in Jesus Christ. So, the modern Jew who denies the gospel, there is no other way for the forgiveness of sin. Christ has provided the means of atonement. Christ is the atonement. Christ is the perfect Paschal Lamb. He is the one who takes away the sins of the world. And so, if they do not accept Jesus as the Messiah, they don't get their sins forgiven. They sins are forgiven by Christ in the atonement. Do they still sacrifice animals? I don't think so. Ever since the synagogue system was set up, they have gone away from the sacrifice of animals, although I believe, this is not my area of expertise, I believe there is a movement to reconstitute the temple and the cultic practices, and so they're in the process of making all of the ornaments and the devices and all the things like that, so that they can actually reinstitute the sacrifices of the temple. Although I'm not sure how you would do that with a Jewish population as large as it is now, and as dispersed across the entire globe as it is now, and how you would do that faithfully to the Mosaic law. But it's my understanding right now that under the synagogue system, there is no animal sacrifices right now.
Patrick, you had.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to be Christ's victor. I mean, he is the sacrifice for all. He's the atonement for all. He's the King of the universe, and he's where we find our salvation for everyone. Jew, Gentile, American, African, Australian, European, Asian, it doesn't matter. And to get to maybe the other side of what their point is, how do Jews understand forgiveness in a post-temple era? I think, and again, I'm with Tyler, this isn't my area of expertise, but I want to say that they have that's what Yom Kippur is. It's the Day of Atonement, and it's how they understand forgiveness in a post-temple period where there isn't a temple where they can sacrifice animals, as they celebrate Yom Kippur, and that's supposed to atone for all of the past year's sins. How they got to that understanding, I have no clue. I'm not a Jewish expert, but I want to say that is what Yom Kippur actually is. I'll fully say I could be wrong about that. And I also have heard that there's a push for animal sacrifice, but again, in a post-temple era, I'm not sure even how that would look, because when they were doing animal sacrifices, there weren't synagogues. No, it was in the temple. It was in the Holy of Holies, where they had the ornament and the altar and everything. And so I too am just that might pop off a war of epic proportions, because the only place I know where a temple was ever said to be built from God's own mouth is in Israel, and there's now a Islamic mosque in that place. So I mean, you would be talking about some major political maneuvering to get that done. But I'm gonna claim Jesus. I'm going to claim Jesus is for all of us. And if anyone wants forgiveness of sins, that's where it's found. It is in the blood of Jesus Christ, the power of his sacrifice, his atoning work on the cross. And when he said it is finished, that is our Passover lamb. But again, I think the Jews understand how do they get forgiveness now is through Yom Kippur, through the celebration of Yom Kippur.
Yeah, I think that's about my understanding, because they shifted to rabbinic Judaism, where it's all about the studying and the knowledge and, just living and following God. And so, which I think is probably what the questioner was getting at. How are they forgiven? Same way all of us are forgiven. The real answer is Jesus. But as far as how do they function, how do they understand they're supposed to be getting saved or forgiven? And the best I understand, Patrick, it's about what I.
Yeah.
Okay.
I already concur with all three of you on that part. I mean, Jesus says, I'm the only way. No one comes to the Father but through me. The only thing on the sacrifice of animals is that a few years ago, there was a small news blog, and I haven't researched it to know whether it was just a statement, but it has to be a red bull to reinstigate. Somebody says there's a breeder, and they're getting real close. And so, like you said, political maneuvering and then other maneuvering has to take place if they're going to go back to the sacrifice. But again, the only true sacrifice was Jesus. So that's where I'll end on that one.
I will add that I've heard that as well, that they've actually have are breeding red heifers so that and they go over it, with a magnifying glass looking for the slightest blemish. They need that blemish-free sacrifice. I've even heard that there is a project going on where they've found genetic markers which would indicate people being in the lineage of Aaron. And don't ask me, I'm not a geneticist, of how they would have figured that out. So that way they can actually have priests. So they're actually, it's called the Temple Institute, I think is what it is. And they're actually gathering together in preparation for when they one day might be able to have their sacrifices again. But yeah, my understanding is that right now the way they are is, as Patrick said, is the way they would probably answer that.